Hey everyone, great to see you on a Friday night here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, on what is one of my favorite sports weekends of the year. It's championship weekend in college football, of course. And as I get things started right now, I see a little technical glitch that we'll need to clear up here in just a second. But of course, this is the Pac-12 championship game Friday night. I think the Pac-12 made a strategic programming decision years ago when they first launched this championship game. I believe it was in the Big Ten started in 2011. Maybe the Pac-12 was 1 year either ahead or behind. I believe that first Pac-12 championship game was UCLA and Stanford in 2010, or was it in 2012? Somewhere right around there. And the Pac-12 championship and the Pac-12 conference made a decision at that point to play its championship game on Friday night. And why not? That made total sense with the more established championship games already being played and the Big Ten joining the championship weekend just recently at that point, that the Pac-12 considered Friday nights for the taking. Let's do it. So Pac-12 partnered with Fox and ushered in their conference championship game that has been ruled by the North Division. Definitely. All right, let's get this issue taken care of, which will just take 1 second here. Otherwise, we may not have a broadcast very soon. So we'll be on until kickoff of the Pac-12 championship game. Of course, we've got the MAC, Conference USA, and also a Nebraska-Rutgers game. Nebraska and Rutgers. So with all of the issues and the cancellations and the postponements and the challenge and adversity that almost prevented a college football season in a number of conferences, that has taken a lot of football off the table for us. We all missed the great non-conference matchups that we would have seen in a normal year. Texas LSU, Ohio State, Oregon, Virginia Tech, Penn State, Alabama, Notre Dame, or Alabama, USC, Notre Dame, and the like. We are getting a bit of a gift this weekend. We're getting a bit of a gift with extra games, extra football, not just the 10, now 9 conference championship games, but additional football, starting with Nebraska and Rutgers tonight. So regardless of what you think of that, it's more football. And for those of you who keep track of this sort of thing, because I know that you're out there, because I hear from you several times a week. I won't say every day, almost every day. The helmet shelf accurately reflects the teams participating in conference championship games this weekend. So every helmet that I've got of a team participating this weekend in a conference championship game, they are displayed up front. Okay, we've got Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Oklahoma, Florida, and everybody else to the back is not playing in a conference championship game this weekend. We also have USC as well, and even giving a little homage to Washington, who technically won the Pac-12 North Division, but will not play in the conference championship game. We have an Oregon team that is 3-2 playing in a conference championship game. We have in the past, though, had a Georgia Tech team that was 6-6 playing a conference championship game. We had UCLA at 6-6 a few years ago play in a conference championship game because USC was under NCAA probation. Those are the worst examples I can come up with of teams that probably did not belong, or correct me on that, did not belong in a conference championship game based on their performance that season playing in a conference championship game. And also a Wisconsin team that did a number on Nebraska in the second Big Ten championship game in 2012 was only 7-5 at the time. Just completely humiliated and humbled Nebraska 70-39, rushing for 1,000 yards or something close to it. And then going on to the Rose Bowl as the Big Ten champion. the season that Ohio State was under NCAA probation at 12-0. All right, 860-325-3687. And as you see down below on the crawl, I know that Christmas is almost here. So probably the Amazon shopping is probably done for Christmas. But if it's not, please use the link that we provide in the description section of any of the videos. Go to any of the videos, grab the Amazon link, use that link when you shop Amazon. So even though we're kind of past the Christmas shopping season, understand there will be all sorts of gift exchanges. I'm sure there will be all sorts of returns, and use that link on Amazon that we provide in the description section to help us build the channel. And of course, smash that like button. What game do you want to see? We've got a page on Cited. It's called cited.co for those of you who are into this kind of thing where you like to take polls and debate and discuss. It's a debate channel. It's a debate site. It's called Cited. Look it up. Look me up there, MarkRogersTV, on Cited. And there are tons of sports debates, college football debates in particular, but sports debates, news debates, pop culture debates. Go nuts on there. And you've got a chance, if you take part in the debates that I provide each and every week, to win a $25 gift card to Amazon. How about that? Our number here is 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. Let's get into the chat. And I'll leave the phone number on the crawl down below, 860-325-3687. And of course, we've got conference championship games. Do they mean anything to you? If they don't involve the playoff, like the Big 12 possibly, the Pac-12 most likely, and all the Group of 5 conference championships, do conference championships mean anything to you? Call me crazy, but they're more valid than the college football national championship. They're more valid, they're more credible, they're more tangible, because you have to win a division to play in the conference championship game, and that's totaled by wins and losses. The college football playoff is determined by 13 people. All right, let's get into it. And we're going to take you right up to kickoff of the Pac-12 championship game. And it is my aim and my goal tonight, even though I probably won't get there, it is my aim and my goal tonight to lead us up to the Pac-12 championship kickoff and to watch every game tonight. I want to watch all the games. I want to watch every conference championship game. I know we don't have, unfortunately, not App State. They're usually in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. Louisiana and, of course, Coastal Carolina canceled. That would have been a fun one to watch. All right. We've got a slow-moving crowd coming into the live stream, unfortunately, tonight. I see we're 8 minutes in, only 8 on the line, but it's great to have all of you. Let's get to your comments and questions. Hey, Mark, I'm excited for tonight's call-in show. So we're going to have this call-in show that leads us up to the Pac-12 kickoff at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And then also, I will be coming on here live after the game. So get all set up, get geared up, get ready, bring your comments, your questions, your scenarios for the college football playoff, anything you want to talk about concerning college football, of course, for our post-game for the Pac-12 championship. Hey, Brad, good to see you. Brad found a few interesting facts about the SEC, ACC, and Big Ten. Whole for those people saying the Big Ten sucks. Okay, Brad, you'll have to let us know what those facts are. There's no way to accurately rate these conferences this year until they start playing bowl games and college football playoff games against each other. There's no way to rate the conferences other than the Big 12 looked bad against the Sun Belt. Snake Spence, go Bucks. Good to see you, Cheryl. Thanks for being a moderator. We need more moderators. I believe Cheryl would agree with me. We have 9 or 10, but I don't see most of them in the live streams, even though all 9 or 10 wanted to be moderators. Cheryl's here for us.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. The call will start at the beep.
It's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
To the man that gives college football its voice, Mark Rogers. Hi, and how are you, sir?
Hey, Dave. How are you?
Excellent. I can see you've been a busy man for the last few days.
Oh,
I've caught all of your segments.
you're not kidding. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I've enjoyed them. I think you found every pretty much Power 5 team to do a national signing day on. That's pretty good.
Whoa, no, I've not come anywhere close to that. But I have been sitting here for like 9 hours a day recording and editing. But yeah, we got to about 25 teams, I believe.
Yeah, it was good. It was very impressive.
Thank you.
I liked it. You get some good stuff.
Appreciate that.
I wanted to give you a call. Well, first of all, who do you like in the MAC championship game? I'm thinking it's got Buffalo, right?
I think Buffalo's going to win very comfortably.
Okay. Was this one of your picks of the week?
One of my picks of the week? I don't have any picks of the week. I just do the picks.
Well, I'm hoping it's yours and not Steve Merrill's because I'm trusting your picks more right now, Mark.
You know, for a few years, I should have stayed with this. I used to do confidence picks. So I would do my picks and then I would say, these are my confidence picks. And I tracked those for about 4 years. And I was hitting about 70% against the spread when I was confident on my confidence picks. But I haven't done that for the last maybe 2 seasons.
Hey, I've got a question for you. I was, the National Signing Day. Is it me and I know you said you follow recruiting a little bit, but not a lot. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that's fair.
Okay. Well, I think that was your statement, so I just wanted to make sure I was quoting you accurately. So that's why I wanted to put that out there. That being said, what was the reason behind them moving it from February to November? Did you ever get a rationale behind that?
The only reasoning that I can recall, and I'm sure I've had conversations and I'm forgetting a lot, because when it happened at the time, I certainly was asking all the recruiting types, what is going on here? It seems to be cramped right in the middle of the season, where it would put a tremendous strain on coaching staffs to be in the middle of a season, then preparing for bowl games and playoff games, and have to be out on the road recruiting. And the one reason that I can remember is that the players themselves, the student athletes, were growing tired and weary of just the constant pursuit through the holidays and into February.
Really? Okay. Well, I don't know about you, Mark. I was a much bigger fan, for some of the reasons you just mentioned. I mean, first of all, if you're a football coaching staff, you've got a lot of things to worry about come, this time of year, especially if you're trying to get ready. Well, usually by this time of year, in a normal year, you're just maybe getting ready for a bowl season or the off season. But at the same time, I just think that, once it's in February, I think it was so much better because the season was over with. It actually kind of gave us something to look forward to at that time of year from a fan perspective as well. And plus, I think that, the coaches, can kind of like focus on that more rather than having to worry about game planning and putting together a scheme and those type things. I mean, are you in agreement it was that much better at that time of year, or what are your thoughts?
I remember hearing Urban Meyer, and when I say complain, I don't mean in a whining sort of way, but just explaining the challenges to the early signing period. But at the same time, I know that in having conversations with the Buckeye guys that we have on every week, that they said that once he went through the cycle once or twice, He thought he was okay with it, and actually thought it got that out of the way and locked everything up, especially with the approach that he had to get it all said and done by December. And obviously, it didn't mess with their success. But everybody's just that everybody's on the same. Everybody's playing on the same rules against the same rules, and we're seeing that even though there's a second signing day, that the numbers are increasing every year. I think it started around 75 to 80% the first year, this being the fourth early signing period, that it increases every year, that the players want to sign and make that commitment, and they're ready to make that commitment at that point.
Yeah, I personally think that, it was kind of neat to have the hat thing, and then the faxes used to come in. Well, I'm dating myself, I'd probably say faxes.
No, the faxes still come in. They still use a fax machine, if you can believe it. Why that hasn't changed, I have no idea.
Yeah, I thought that was the way of the pager, but it shows you where date myself now a little bit here. So, yeah. Well, just overall, Mark. By the way, I heard the Buckeye show. Good show. Overall, I was pretty happy with. I mean, I should have say extremely happy with the class. I was really hoping they had a chance to get number one. They've been close in the past a few times. The 2013 class, which I still think might be the best Meyer class, although that 17 class he had, which had a lot of players on last year's team, was really, really good. But you know what? I mean, historically speaking, I'm going to give you a little bit of history here, Mark.
Yep.
And I like to kind of throw this out here. I'm going to give you what I think are the greatest recruiting classes in the history of Ohio State. I'm going to run down with you real quick. Okay?
Sure.
2002, Jim Tressel's recruiting class, where he got Maurice Claret, Troy Smith. He also got A.J. Hawk, Bobby Carpenter, Antonio Holmes, and Nick Manville. He got 4 first-round draft picks. He got a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and he got a running back that helped him win a national title. Pretty good class.
Mm-hmm.
The best class of the Tressel era by far. The best class of the Cooper era, and you'll remember this.
Still with us, Dave? We lost Dave. We'll wait for Dave to come back, and we'll answer some of the questions that are being posed here. Vinay has been all over this situation regarding when the inactive list comes out for the games this weekend, and in particular for Ohio State. So Vinay's telling us, hey, Mark, confirmed with Tony again. I believe that's Tony Gerdeman of Buckeye Scoop. Availability report will be released tomorrow at 10:45 in the morning for a noon Eastern Time Big Ten Championship game. All right, got some other questions coming in here. We've got Sean. USC needs a miracle. This is why I feel there should be more than 4 teams allowed in the playoffs, especially in a year like this. There should be more than 4 teams in the playoffs, preferably 8, because the math works. Not because USC needs a miracle necessarily, but because there are 5 Power 5 conferences. We lost Dave. So yes, we need more than 4 teams in the playoff. And some people want 6. That doesn't work for a number of reasons that I've cited. And one huge one in particular, we need 8 teams in the playoff. Vinay, Mark, I can confirm talking to Tony as well that the Buckeyes are departing for Indy now as we speak. Wow. We're getting up to the minute updates from Vinay. Earlier, we've got Benjamin Smith asking, do you know who is supposed to be out tomorrow, Mark? Out. We've got like 15 games, 20 games being played, so I don't know exactly who you're talking about. For what, are we talking about every game? So we've got like 20 games, Benjamin, on Saturday. There was one other question that came in from Snake Spence. Notre Dame being a lock. Snake Spence, is Notre Dame a lock for the playoff regardless? It sure seems like that. The worst thing that could happen to Notre Dame would be to, of course, lose and lose big and then have Florida beat Alabama. I would think that that would be the worst scenario for Notre Dame. That if they lose 52-10, so Clemson's in the playoff, and then Florida beats Alabama. Florida's got the 2 losses, sure, but they're also a conference champion that Notre Dame is not. They also beat the number 1 team in the country, Alabama. They also beat a top 5 team in Texas A&M. Or no, they lost to a top 5 team in Texas A&M. But even then, I think that Notre Dame has a spot. There's just not a team behind them that can elevate themselves with an impressive win, except for Florida. Florida can cause the logjam. Florida's the team out there that can cause the logjam like nobody else. Like nobody else. Yes, Jordan, we got a small crowd tonight. The crowds in the last few weeks have been very encouraging. We've had some tremendous live streams, but I didn't get the word out there, I guess, until sometime this afternoon. Maybe that was it. But we will be back here after the Pac-12 championship game as well. Renee says, Mark, wonderful news. Tony just told me Justin has just got on the flight and will start tomorrow. It's good to know. Justin Fields, good to go. So tonight, we've got a MAC championship game with, again, Buffalo taking on Ball State. Buffalo and Jared Patterson, one of the best running backs in college football, is a 13-point favorite against Ball State. UAB is a 5.5-point underdog against Marshall in the Conference USA championship game. And Marshall, of course, was undefeated most of the season before they ran into Rice of all teams and lost 20-0. And of course, Oregon USC tonight. The Ducks are a 3-point underdog on the road at the Coliseum. I've got my picks on Patreon. Please join us on Patreon. You get an insider look to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You get my picks. You get Steve Merrill's lock of the week. We have watch parties, and we also have exclusive live streams per request at Patreon. It's only 15 cents a day. Grab the link in the description section. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV. Who's on the line?
George.
George is being impersonated. George has become such a megastar on all these call-in shows. And from what I've seen, which is very little of these other call-in shows, because we got Pixie and P, we got Uncle Lou. They're the two that come to mind, because everybody else is just kind of maybe because I communicate the most with Pixie and Pete and Uncle Lou, I can't even name another show out there. The Wholesome One, doing Miami. But I believe George is just all into it, all over the place. So George has become a bit of a college football online icon, a star. And people are now calling in, pranking themselves as being George. Shilling Ender, this is the first time I've ever seen your handle, your icon there on Mark Rogers TV. So welcome to our channel, or more appropriately, welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Shilling Ender, would love to know who you root for. Probably your alma mater, Kent State University. We've got the Kent helmet here displayed. Somebody else very famous that comes on my channel from time to time is a Kent State alum. And we got a super chat coming in. We'll acknowledge that in just a second. Appreciate that. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Dominic. How you doing?
Hey, Dominic. I'm great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, I've been pretty much. I just wrote down the 3 championship games on a piece of paper that I want to talk about.
Okay.
On the show tonight.
All right. It's good that you got them down right in front of you. All right.
So the first one, UAB versus Marshall. That game should be pretty well to see. I mean, UAB has done pretty well this year, I guess you could say. But I forgot their current record. Let me pull up the ESPN website and
I believe UAB is 5-3, if I remember correctly. So Dominic, we for as much as we would like for you to read off of the ESPN website, you certainly don't need to be passing along reading records. Everybody has access, I believe, online. We're all online. We can all look up records if we need to. But I believe UAB is 5-3 off the top of my head.
Oh, my mistake, Mark. It's been a long day for me, so my mistake.
Yeah, so you got UAB and Marshall. They're kicking off here in about an hour. All right, so you're interested in that one?
Yes. Now, Ball State and Buffalo.
Yep.
I'm not too sure. I think Buffalo has got a good chance. They've done all right. I mean, but I'm not too sure about their defense because throughout most of the season, their defense has not been well, if I'm correct.
Well, they've given up a lot of points to a few teams, but those have been games that come to mind that they've certainly scored a ton of points. Yeah, but Buffalo is undefeated and they're a 13-point favorite in the game. And they also have one of the best running backs in the nation in Jared Patterson.
Yeah, Jared Patterson, he's done very well throughout the season. I would agree. He's done very well. We'll see how he does in the championship game against Ball State. Now, the final one before I head out, Oregon and USC. Now, that should be a good one. I mean, one time I kind of talked about USC, if I'm correct. But I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, the Pac-12 championship game is going to be really good to see. I'm interested in that one as well. But that should be really well.
All right, Dominic, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate that. Enjoy the football tonight. We'll be on after the ball games.
All right.
All right, our friend Dominic calling to let us know that they're interested in some of the games there. That's what I got out of that call. Mark, 11 Yipe. I guess that's how you say that. Central, Kyle Trask fan. Who do you think will win the Big 12 championship? And what do you think the score will be? Well, I've got to honor and be loyal to our folks on Patreon because they get my exclusive picks over there. So I have made my prediction public there. So if anybody on Patreon wants to leak my prediction on the Big 12 championship game, certainly pass that on to 11 YPE Central. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hello, Mark. I'm Ben.
Hey, Ben. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. So
Sure, fire away.
So I've been looking around at some of these um conference championships, and whether it be the wins and the losses or the rank the team is, one thing that kind of bothers me a little bit, and I want to get your opinion on this, is I think that Alabama will win the SEC championship game. I said it the last time I called in. But what really kind of bothers me is I think that people are looking a lot more, and I understand it, but I think a lot of people are looking more at the records. Now, I know that may sound kind of dumb, but I just feel like a lot more, and obviously, if we lost to LSU and, what's their name, and Alabama, with them, I understand that that's, we're going to say, well, we're going to lose to them. But I think it kind of doesn't bother me, but it's kind of, I don't know the right word, but it just kind of bothers me that, like, 8-2, 10-0, it just kind of seems like the record, of course, matters, but they're taking it way too far. Maybe. I don't know. That's just something I think. And also, if Oklahoma wins, this is another thing. If Oklahoma wins and everybody else loses, like the scenario I put out last time I called, do you think Oklahoma could somehow get in?
Okay, I'll take on the first question or the first comment that you had. So basically, if I'm understanding your complaint, it's that you believe that even though Florida would have 2 losses as an SEC champion, that the committee should look, and just people in general should look beyond the record, and seeing that Florida has possibly a better resume as a 2-loss team than other teams do as a 1-loss team. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, kind of like, would you rather put in Oklahoma or Florida as a 2-loss team? Like, it just kind of, I'm thinking of, like, what 2-loss team do you think you should put in to the playoffs right now, looking at it if they're, per se, Clemson if they lose, or Florida and Oklahoma if they both win? Like, what would your opinion be on which team you should put in?
Well, there's no question right now that if Florida beats Alabama, that they're going to get in over Oklahoma. So the committee has already obligated themselves to make that selection because Florida's ahead of Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's 10 and Florida's 7, correct? I believe.
Yes.
So you got Florida at 7, you got Oklahoma at 10, and Florida will have beaten the best team in the country, the number 1 ranked team in the country, and Oklahoma would have beaten number 6. So Florida's in much better position to get to the playoff than Oklahoma. If they win, they're not in a better situation or probability to get there because they got to beat Alabama. But if they beat Alabama, they're in much better shape than Oklahoma. They have a much better case. There's no way the committee is going to take a team that's number 10 and have them eclipse a team that's number 7 that just beat the number 1 team in the country.
And then also say Clemson loses to Notre Dame, which I also really hope happens. That would also, wouldn't that kind of maybe weaken their strength of record, because they're 9-1 now, but they lost to the best team twice. But again, this is if they lose. They lost to the best teams they played twice. So would that make them? So of course that would look like it would knock them out. But would your opinion be on them with the playoff committee, just the way it's been this whole year?
So if Clemson loses a close game to Notre Dame, it is a bit of a quandary, it's a contradiction, because on one hand, they now have 2 losses. They're not a conference champion, but on the other hand, we're considering Notre Dame to be the best or the second best team in the country, and that's the only team that's beaten Clemson. If you can give me a framework of what else has happened in the country, then I can give you the likelihood that Clemson's going to make the playoff as the 2-loss non-conference champion.
Now that I think of it, that does make sense. And then one more question before I end here. Heisman Trophy pick. What's your Heisman Trophy pick if Alabama loses somehow? What's your Heisman Trophy pick? Florida somehow knocks off Alabama.
my thought going into last week's games, thinking that Florida would win against LSU, was that most likely the winner between Trask and Mac Jones would win the Heisman if they had comparable performances. Let's say it was a great game, it was 45-40, but Alabama won. That the perception is that Kyle Trask has to do a lot more with his offense and with his team than Mac Jones does. Therefore, I was thinking that the winner of the game, if they had comparable stats, would most likely win it, unless Florida lost a very close game. And again, I was thinking this prior to the LSU loss, that if Florida lost a very close game and Trask played out of his mind and they lost 48-45, that he could still win a Heisman, because the perception, and I believe the perception to be correct, Trask is much more important to his team than Mac Jones is to his team. I know that I don't know Trask's numbers against LSU off the top of my head, but he didn't have a horrible. He had a good game.
I think it was like 474 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing, and 2 interceptions.
He threw 2 picks. One was a pick 6. So you're telling me he had 2 rushing, 2 passing. So he's up to like 40 touchdown passes this year, right? Something like that.
Mm-hmm. He just is actually exactly at 40.
Okay.
He had also he was just above 50%, I think, for his pass completions.
We can see countless examples over the history of the Heisman Trophy, and certainly over the last 15 years, where players who did not play on championship teams still won the Heisman Trophy. Number of them. So I believe, and again, what you're asking me to do is to predict what other people are going to vote. So I will tell you what I believe. I believe that Kyle Trask has turned in the best season in college football this year. And if he goes out against Alabama and plays extremely well, even if they lose, I would vote him to be the Heisman Trophy winner. If he went out there and threw for 350 and 3, 4, 5 touchdowns and played really well, and they lost an epic 45-42 game, I would still vote for Kyle Trask myself as the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, I think that, obviously, I think Alabama will beat us. And like I said last time I called in, a lot of people, reality, we had reality check after that LSU game. We were really high on ourselves in Gainesville. And, now we're not so high on ourselves. And every time Marco Wilson's near a shoe, I'm going to be praying. So I just hope we win. I hope we win, but I don't think we will. I mean, it'd be crazy, though.
As they say, stranger things have happened, so don't give up hope.
Mm-hmm.
And
also, as they say, all beasts are slaves, so we'll see.
There you go, Ben.
We'll have to see, Mark. Thank you for answering my call, and I'll look forward to your call and show on Saturday night, tomorrow night.
Yep, we'll be here after tonight's Pac-12 championship game, and then tomorrow night after the conference championship games, about 11:30.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Ben. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. You too.
Our guy Ben's becoming a bit of a regular caller now with some insightful questions. These scenarios are not easy, so I will always answer them with, this is what I believe the committee's going to do, but also bear in mind, we can only basically kind of play checkers with them and determine, okay, they obviously are valuing this team because of these reasons, and they've shown their hand, so we can predict that this is where they've led us to. But then I will also, of course, answer it to say, this is what I would choose. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
So I have a question. What are your thoughts on if Notre Dame, Chip Kelly said that if they will not allow parents into the stadium for the college football playoffs, Notre Dame will opt out. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just going to hit on that. I saw a couple comments in the live chat. I think it's a bit ridiculous for him to. I agree with his stance. So there's a difference between what I agree with and what I think what measures should be taken. I would be in the same boat in wanting fans in the stands. I think that we have safely filled stadiums to about 20% capacity in places like the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC. So why can't we have 20% capacity in the college football playoff, number one? But even if we don't have the general public in attendance, there is no question that we should have families attend the college football playoff games. We're talking about these teams reaching the ultimate in the sport, and their families can't attend the game. We're talking about several hundred people. It's just a bit ridiculous. So I agree with Brian Kelly's stance, but for him to say that they're going to opt out if they don't get their way and there's families in the stands, I just don't think that he should be taking that severe of a decision to take away a championship opportunity for his players. And I really don't believe that he means it. I don't believe that he will follow through on that. I just cannot believe that.
I agree on you with that. And one more question: what would you think if Devontae Smith, ESPN for their Heisman votes right now doesn't mean anything currently, but if Devontae Smith were to win Heisman over Mac Jones and Kyle Trask?
Well, I would have no problem with it because the trophy is supposed to be awarded to the best player in college football. The quarterbacks generally get it because they're the most important players on the field. But Devontae Smith is probably the best player in college football. So I would have no issue with him winning the Heisman. You can certainly take different angles at these awards as being the best player or the most valuable player, the most important player. At his position, he's not the most important player, but he has turned in, I can't argue, with the best season. So I would have no issue with him being named the best player, and that goes to the Heisman winner.
That's all. Thank you for letting me on your show.
Appreciate the call.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right. Good calls coming in. William Ward, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Appreciate that so much. We'll get to your comment in just a second. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hello?
Yeah.
So, I'm allowed to ask any question I want.
Pertaining to college football.
So, I, like you, I'm a Buckeye fan, but tonight I think everybody's going to be watching that Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah.
And I would like to know your thoughts are about what's going to be the most important thing in that game and who the most important player to watch will be.
Good questions right there. So the most important player in the Pac-12 championship game, I would believe to be Tyler Shooks, the Oregon quarterback. He's generally been decent this year. He's played pretty well. Nothing close to what Justin Herbert is, obviously. But his issue has been protecting the football, fumbles, interceptions, and he's going to have to maintain the football because I think he is just in a position where he's a bit more of a wild card than Keaton Slovis. We know what we're going to get out of Slovis with an extra year of experience versus what Tyler Shooks has shown us. So I think he's the most important player in the game. What was the other question?
What aspect of the game will you be watching the most?
What aspect of the game? Well, anytime USC hits the field, at least in the last 5 or 6 years, they're bringing the most elite wide receiver core in the country, or in the conference, to the field. So Oregon has had issues against the likes of Oregon State, UCLA, Cal in blowing coverages. So if they do that tonight too many times, they're going to have a rough, long night. So the USC wide receivers, Drake London has been amazing this year. Amon St. Brown, and that group, Tyler Vaughn's, against the Oregon defensive backs.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for accepting my call.
Hey, appreciate the call. Have a good night. Got some good football questions coming in tonight. William Ward, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. It is much appreciated. I remind everyone out there that this is now the career. This is now the vision. This is now the platform. This is all there is for me personally. This used to be a sideline business up until mid-October when I finished off 19 years at ESPN. And I made that decision to take the plunge, take the deep dive, and go full throttle at this. So this will stay alive based on revenue that comes in from hopefully multiple sources, but one is from your individual contributions. So these are appreciated so much. You can donate right here at on the Super Chat, or go to Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App, and just look up Mark Rogers TV. So thank you so much for that. Also, if you have any connections with any sponsors, please let me know at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. You can contact me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail anytime you'd like. But most notably, I would like you to contact me there if you have any great suggestions, leads, or ideas concerning sponsors or generating revenue streams. All right, William Ward says, I love your passion and coverage of college football. I can't stand mainstream coverage of college football and sports in general. You, Outkick, and Sports Wars are the best. Outkick the coverage with 247 Sports. 247 Sports. No, Outkick. Yes. Clay Travis. Good stuff. Yes. During all that was going on this summer and this fall, it was quite amusing. And more importantly than that, it was quite enlightening to watch a lot of Clay Travis's coverage. Sports Wars, not familiar with them, but I'm sure they're good. So I appreciate it, William. We aim to do better. We aim to do better. All right. Vinay, with another update on the Buckeyes personnel for tomorrow's game. Mark, no word on Chris Olave, but haven't seen him among the picks Ohio State football released on Twitter. Jamie, what's your view on players opting out of the bowls? Well, I believe they have the right to do so. I don't like it. I'm a college football fan. I want to see the best players playing in the best games. What I find interesting or a bit odd about the bowl games is that there is such a dichotomy of people's perspective on the importance of bowl games. So you've got some people that believe they're basically exhibitions. They don't really matter. They're just fun trips for the players to take to nice locations, have a good time, get ready for a game, and it's basically a scrimmage. I would argue against that. That's not how I believe them to be. But I understand that thought process. The season's over. The regular season's over. These teams aren't playing for a championship. The bowl games have been structured in such a way in terms of the scheduling of them to kind of build this allure that they're leading up to a championship. Like the Bowl Championship Series, when that name first came out and that whole structure, the Bowl Championship Series, I thought, it's not a Bowl Championship Series. There's a championship game. These other games have nothing to do with that game. They are not leading up to that game. They have no connection to that game. The results of that game do not influence who plays in that game. There is no connection in the bowl championship series. Nothing. So I understand the thought that many people have about the unimportance of bowl games. But let's keep in mind that during any regular season in college football, there are 12 games played in the regular season. Most teams by November are out of the conference race. They have no chance to win a conference championship. You can go to any college football season, go to the first week of November, look at the conference standings in any conference, and most of those teams have no shot to win the conference championship. So those games are by definition meaningless. The games being played by, let's say, Rutgers against Maryland and Kansas and TCU, or fill in the blank, are meaningless. So why don't those players opt out of those games? As soon as a particular team's games become meaningless, meaning that they cannot any longer compete for a conference championship and their games are meaningless, why don't all the players who either no longer want to play or want to prepare for the NFL draft say, I'm opting out, these games are meaningless. Our team's 3-5. I'm not going to play the last 4 games of the season because my team's 3-5 and we can't win the conference championship. Once we get to bowl play, I find it interesting that a lot of people don't find those games to be, again, meaningful or important when, number one, they're not exhibitions because they count on the team's record. If a team's 8-4 and they win a bowl game, they are 9-4. If a team is 10-2, they lose a bowl game, they're 10-3. The bowl games count in the standings. Also keep into consideration that for almost every team in the nation, they are being watched by more people during that bowl game than at any other point in the season. Pick your team. Let's take TCU. I'm just grabbing TCU out of nowhere. Every week, TCU's playing on FS1 or Fox Sports, or they might get a game on ESPN2 and they're playing West Virginia and Iowa State and Oklahoma State and Kansas and Texas Tech, and hardly anybody's watching those games. Because at the same time that TCU's playing, there are 12 other games that any of us can watch and more important matchups to watch. Therefore, TCU's drawing a tiny, tiny portion of the college football audience in any given week. Even bigger games than that are drawing a small slice of the college football total audience because there's just too many games on at the same time. But once TCU makes it to a bowl game, let's take their last bowl appearance 2 years ago against Cal in the Cheez-It Bowl. Okay, seems stupid. It's the Cheez-It Bowl. It's TCU and Cal, 2 average teams. But you know what? More people are watching that game than 90% of the regular season games played. And more people are watching that game between TCU and Cal on that given night because it's the only college football game being played. So if you want to watch college football, you have to watch TCU and Cal play in the Cheez-It Bowl. Therefore, more people are watching TCU and Cal than at any other point in those 2 teams' schedule. They are being watched by more people on that given night than they are at any time that season. So if that's not important, I don't know what is. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, Christian, we're going here.
Hey, man. I'm here defending bowl games right now is what I'm doing.
Well, if I had a bit more context, I could help you out. But I'm not really sure which bowl game you're defending. I think I heard you talking about how bowl games are usually the most watched game for
Yes.
the teams that are playing.
Yes.
With a couple of exceptions.
Sure.
But I would generally agree with that. I actually think it's kind of criminal almost how bowls have been almost completely devalued since the start of the playoffs. I think that was very unforeseen. I don't think a lot of people thought that would happen, but that's just about 2 or 3 years after the playoffs. That's when you started seeing players start opting out of quote unquote meaningless bowl games.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm not sure if it's as important to the players as it is to us, if you think about it.
I would argue, though, that, and this is not to increase the validity or the importance of bowl games, but that if the argument is that these games are meaningless, well, first of all, they do count on a team's record, just like any other game, just like a non-conference game, it counts on a team's record. Alabama was 10-2. They went to a bowl game. They won the bowl game against Michigan last year. They finished 11-2, just like a non-conference game. So it counts on a team's record in the all-time records. And also, if players are going to opt out of meaningless games, then I would think that there would be all sorts of players opting out in once we hit about mid-October.
It's funny how that works out, isn't it? We all remember the big, the infamous Sugar Bowl with Georgia and Texas, where Georgia had like 20 people, not playing. So then all of us decided as soon as they lost Alabama, oh well, season's over. We don't care. We're just going to sit on. We're just going to tweet that we should be in the playoffs, and then go, get shoved in by Texas. And then that one time, Michigan had like over half its team sitting out against Florida. And that is kind of interesting if you think about it. It's like, well, why is it only the bowl game that you don't like?
Yeah, if I'm a wide receiver, let's say I'm playing wide receiver for Ole Miss, and I'm expected to be a fairly high NFL draft pick, but I'm playing for Ole Miss, and halfway through the SEC season, my team is 1-4 in the SEC after 5 games, and there's 3 games left, plus let's say a Citadel type game 2 weeks before the Egg Bowl. So I've got 3 games left in the SEC. I've got 4 games left in the season. My season's over in terms of meaningful games. So why don't they stop playing then?
Well, there's 1 or 2 cases where that did happen. What that quarterback at Houston or something just said, you know what, I don't want to play the rest of the year, like September or something last year. I remember something like that happening.
Oh yeah, that was the Eric King.
There you go. But anyway, I saw you were live streaming right now about the Pac-12 championship game, so I thought I might call in and talk Pac-12 for a little bit.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, imagine that. Mostly because a lot of it's kind of funny. But have you talked to anyone at all about just the odd circumstance that is Oregon's presence in this game just to begin with? Because a lot of people weren't talking about this going into last weekend. Of course, Washington ended up canceling the game and Oregon gets in by default. But I'm trying to think, how is this? If like Washington or like had played, then I can't remember what I was going to say. But it's like I think, Oregon got rewarded by like not playing or something in the game, just for them not having to play against Washington, because Washington was actually ahead because they'd only lost 1 game. But by not playing, then they actually just conceded the division to Oregon.
No, Washington's not playing because they're not meeting the COVID guidelines.
Right. Well, that's what I meant.
Well, Washington's 3-1 and Oregon's 3-2. Washington won the division, but they can't play this weekend. That's why Oregon's playing.
Okay, no, that's what it was. Because Washington did not play Oregon, they won the division by default because they didn't have to risk losing a head-to-head tiebreaker.
Sure.
That's what it was. Which I thought that was kind of amusing, and then I, of course, forget about it when I'm talking to you all live.
So basically, you're
But
making the
it's really
point. You're basically making the point that Washington, had they been capable of playing this weekend against USC, could be playing in the Pac-12 championship game for the conference title, and without having to risk the game that could have knocked them out of the conference championship game.
Right. They
Yes.
could have been like rewarded
Yeah.
for not playing Oregon. That's what I was trying to say, and I completely messed it up. But there's that, and then in the other division, on the other side, man, I really wish Colorado had not lost that game, because I wanted to see what would happen with if you had an undefeated Colorado and USC,
Yeah,
both with the same record.
I did too. Well, they had already decided that USC was going to make the conference championship game.
I know, but well, I mean, they've already decided Ohio State's getting into playoffs, but it would have just been funny to see the kind of outcry. Although, you know, for all we know, there might not have been an outcry. There wasn't even the Pac-12 didn't even have an outcry when they canceled the season. So maybe Colorado fans would have just accepted it.
I got on here a number of times, and in particular shot a couple videos dealing with that whole situation once I could see it coming a few weeks out, where USC and Colorado would be tied as undefeated teams for the division, and Colorado would get screwed because they didn't get to play USC head to head and all of that. Yes, I seemed more outraged than I didn't hear from any Colorado fans. I don't know that there's one that watches me, but yeah, I seemed more outraged about it than anyone I could find.
So that actually is a perfect segue into my question. I'm going to give you something to think about.
Okay.
Is the Pac-12 moving towards Group of Five status? Think about that for a second. They had no respect at all, and deservedly so. They had no respect at all from any of the other conferences or the playoff committee or anything. They are treated pretty much like the American Conference, the Mountain West, almost, with the possible exception of Oregon, who screwed themselves this year. And after this year, since they played the least number of games, and they're the latest getting into it, and they're not going to have any big playoffs. I mean, maybe USC gets into New Year's Six or something. So, but basically, they're going to have the least. We're going to earn really the least amount of money out of any conference, and they're already not respected at all. Are they just getting left in the dust?
Well, I think you make a good point. And you're also going beyond just the wins and losses on the field from a number of other standpoints, TV ratings, amount of money earned by the conference. They're in last place across the board. But let's also understand that if you're going to have a Power 4, Power 5, Power 6, whatever the number is, there's always going to be a weakest league or a weakest two leagues. You know, you're never going to have equity across the board. So there's always going to be a weakest conference.
Right, but okay, so I'm going to tell you a little story here. So a few weeks ago, there was literally nothing else on. So in the living room, I was flipping through the sports channels and was watching Oregon play. You know, I forget who they were playing, but and I'm watching this team, and not only am I seeing how undersized a lot of these players look compared to what I'm used to watching in the SEC, namely Alabama, but I'm just watching them execute plays. I'm watching them go through the routes. I'm watching the defense attempt to read them, and I don't know, Mark. You watch a lot more football than me. Doesn't it look like we're almost watching two separate sports? If you put a Pac-12 game on a TV and sit the TV next to, you know, Alabama, like the Iron Bowl or something, doesn't it look like it would be almost criminal to put Oregon on the same field as Alabama right now?
Well, you make a good point. It goes through my mind as well. Yes, what you're saying goes through my mind as well, that if you watch, let's say, a MAC game, and you're used to watching the top teams in the country play, yes, you see a number of players out there that just based on their size, just based on their size, we won't even go into the level of play, just to look at their arms, their legs, that they look like high level high school players compared to what we're used to watching. But I would at this
Yeah, go ahead.
but when the teams get together and actually play, yes, the SEC is better than the Pac-12, but there's not, first of all, that's not necessarily been the case to this degree for a long, long time. If ever, this might be the widest gap between those two particular conferences ever. The Pac-12 has played extremely good football for most of its history and not been the worst conference, not even been considered anything close to the worst conference for most of its history. It's been at a high level. And I'm just thinking about games like watching Cal and Ole Miss play twice back to back over the last two seasons, 2018 and 19, and thinking those are two teams that have been comparable in their two leagues generally. Maybe Cal's been slightly better in its league, but they've certainly not been a powerhouse. They've been going 500. And when they get on the field, they're playing down to the wire.
That's true, and sort of what you were saying about the Pac-12's history. I mean, obviously, USC's easily a top 10, if not top 5 brand in all of college football still somehow. And of course, Oregon's kind of in new blood right now. Washington's had historical success. Stanford even has had success a while back, and so that obviously is there. But I just wonder if the direction college football is moving, where just the amount of talent that the teams have, the big guys have, the gap between them and even the next tier or the middle of the pack is just widening, and it's just getting so big. And I understand California is a kind of a golden state of recruiting, but they can't right now. They can't even keep their own players in California to go everywhere else. And honestly, I'm still not gonna take a lot of players from California if you put them up against players raised and built in Texas, Georgia, Louisiana, or Florida, those kind of grounds. So that's really where I'm going with this. Is the sport seems to be becoming extremely heavy recruiting focus and top heavy, and I wonder if just the schools and the brands in the Pac-12 are just not going to be able to keep up with it. I mean, obviously, if you put an Urban Meyer at USC, he'll win a national title in at least 5 years. But barring a huge coaching hire like that, I'm just wondering if they're just not going to keep slowly fading into obscurity, because you add that compared to, I mean, let's just be honest, man. They just don't care about it as much. I was stationed out there for a little bit. No one really cared unless you lived in the college towns. It's not like, and I never lived in Ohio, so you can tell me that people everywhere cares about it there. But it's not like in the South where you drive by and you'll see an Alabama billboard on the highway in the middle of the forest. It's not like that. So I'm just wondering if you kind of maybe suspect if we're going to look back on it in 5-10 years from now, if the Pac-12 will become the next Big East. The Big East no longer a thing, and even if it was, it wouldn't be a Power 5.
Boy, you've got me thinking in about 18 different directions. So I'll try to remember everything that's gone through my mind as you've gone through this. One would be, if you look at the talent in the state of California, I will agree with you on half the narrative and disagree on the other half. So if you just take which states produce the best talent, then California is in the top 3 with Florida and Texas. But to your point, if you take it per capita, then it's not nearly as good. So basically what I'm saying is that you've got like 42 million people in the state of California, and maybe you've got, I don't know, 17 or 18 million people in Florida. Somebody can correct me in the chat. And the only reason I know California's number is because of the elections. I remember just hearing that number at some point. That let's say if you take the top 100 players in Florida, the top 100 players in California, they're comparable. But it took 42 million people to produce that 100 players versus 18 million people to produce. So per capita, you're right. There are better football players per capita in the South than there are in California. But because of that enormous population total, they are, with Texas and Florida, one of the three top producing states for NFL talent and for top 300 players in college football. So take that for what it is.
I know I said a lot. I'll remind you that there was that, and then so I was talking about how college football is becoming, very recruiting focused, and the gap keeps seeming to stretch. And I was just wondering if over time, if the Pac-12 is just not going to be able to keep up anymore.
The Pac
going to become the next Big East.
The Pac-12 needs USC and Oregon to be at their best, and it doesn't have to be those two schools, but they're the two most likely candidates. Because if we go back to circa 2009, 2010, then Oregon at that point is competing for national championships, and USC is just at the tail end of Pete Carroll's tenure of competing for national championships and being a top 3 or 4 program for almost 10 years. And I think that's what the issue is with the Pac-12, because if you take the rest of the league, if you take the entire league and you match it up against the ACC, outside of Clemson, and I hate when other people do this argument, but I'm doing it for a certain reason, take out Clemson, and of course, Notre Dame doesn't count. They're not in the conference. I can't find a whole lot of difference between them. I don't know that the Pac-12 wouldn't win a game-for-game contest versus the ACC, aside from Clemson. Clemson carries the banner for the whole league, the way USC did at one time and Oregon did at one time on a national level for the Pac-12. But if you look at the depth of the league, it's pretty good. You could take the Pac-12 and play, if we could, this would be phenomenal. And maybe I would do this if I was commissioner of college football as well. We'd play conferences against conferences top to bottom in certain weeks of the season, and have the Pac-12 play against the Big 12 top to bottom. And it's not like that they would get annihilated by any stretch. Or the ACC. It's just that they cannot play at an elite level. They don't have the program or two programs to play at an elite level. Look. I was just going
to say the last part, maybe it's one of your 18 directions of thought, but is the caring. Okay.
Well, sure. Yeah.
For better or for worse, the SEC schools, at least 3 of them so far, have proved that even during a year like this, they are willing to throw PR aside and pay a bunch of money to make sure their football program is where they want it. South Carolina doesn't like where the football is. They're paying this guy multi-million dollars to go away. Well, Auburn just paying their coach over $20 million to go away. I don't know what Vanderbilt's doing, but the Southern schools and Ohio State and Oklahoma, and now Clemson is a Southern school, those kind of schools, it matters a lot to them, and they are going to do whatever they can to get the necessary funding to make sure their programs, or give their programs a chance to be elite. It matters a lot to them. A lot of people call into question whether or not football matters to Michigan, considering what they're doing, but that's a different discussion. And I'm wondering, do you think that, well, I honestly don't think it's really an opinion. It obviously across the board does not matter as much to the Pac-12 programs across the board. I'm wondering if you think something like that it could also lead to them trending downwards over time.
Yeah.
Or if it has already and just want to continue to do so.
Yeah, I don't think we need to have an argument because it wouldn't be an argument. It doesn't matter to those people as much. Now, does it matter to a certain number of people? Of course it does. There are Oregon football fanatics and USC football fanatics. There's not as many of them, yes, especially compared to the population size. I don't think anyone would debate that, and if they would, then they're not paying attention. The way that I would quantify that in somewhere like Ohio is interesting because I think there are hotbeds in the Big Ten, and the TV ratings would prove this out too, because Columbus, Cleveland, and Cincinnati, and Dayton, which is halfway between Cincinnati and Columbus, rival the TV ratings that you see in Alabama and Georgia for college football. So Ohio is a huge hotbed for college football, but of course there are two professional teams there. So that's going to diminish the importance of it. So I don't know if the Pac-12, if Pac-12 territory was on a scale of 1 to 10, a 1 or 1.5, whatever you want to say, and the SEC was at a 9.5, maybe Big Ten country in totals at a 7, and the hot pockets are in Western Pennsylvania, parts of Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, I guess, and Iowa, and Nebraska. So it is at a fever pitch, but it's more in pockets in the Big Ten, where certainly in Indiana they don't care as much about football than they do elsewhere in the Big Ten or at Illinois. But and I think what was interesting about the Big Ten canceling football temporarily was that what you saw there was the huge disparity in football importance between academia and the everyday person in Big Ten country. That's what you saw that's different than everywhere else. In the SEC, they're sold out. In the SEC, in the ACC, maybe by connection, they're sold out to football in enough areas where they were on board with their decision, and the Big 12 kind of goes along with those two. I don't know. They're a similar deal than the Big Ten, maybe, where Texas is sold out on football and Oklahoma, and then it's kind of scattered. And then the Pac-12 is at the other end of the deal where nobody cared, nobody even talked about it. You know, they were making the same decision at the same time as the Big Ten, and all the conversation was about the Big Ten. Nobody even talked about them, because what happened in the Big Ten is you have all these highfalutin university types, this academia that canceled football, and the outrage came from the working class. And I think in that part of the country, you've got more of a disparity of thought. It's very torn and very split, and that's what happened there.
Much like our country.
Yeah.
All right, hey, that's a great insights. Maybe we can continue this conversation further. I got to get going. So you have a great night. Hopefully we get a good game. And I'm just going to say I'm pulling for Oregon because there's nothing more Pac-12-ish than having a 3-3 conference.
There you go. Thanks, Reasonable Gump. Appreciate it. All right. Getting things heated up now. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Joel Adams. I want to talk to the guy who's running this site.
Yes, sir. What's up? That would be me.
Okay. How you doing?
I'm good. What's up?
You know how they talk about Ohio, not Ohio State, but Iowa State?
Yeah, what about Iowa State?
Oklahoma and everybody like that.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at I'll put this in the SEC is the best conference, plus they got the hardest schedule. Like, you know, like I'm a Georgia fan. You know how like Georgia played Kentucky. Kentucky's not a great team. We all know that, right? Georgia had 7 players injured in that game before they played Florida.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? That's why they rank number 8. People want to talk about how Georgia's not ranked why they ranked so high. Because they had 7 players hurt. You remember back in 2017 when Alabama got beat by Auburn and Georgia got beat by Auburn, but then Georgia won the SEC championship game and went to the playoffs.
Sure.
The reason they let Alabama in was because Alabama was hurt on defense. And they looked at the projection of the team, what they would be when they healthy.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking like if Iowa State played in the SEC, they'd have 4 losses. If Cincinnati played in the SEC, they'd probably have 5 losses. I look at it like that. I don't look at it like you're undefeated, you should be in the top 4. I don't look at it like that.
Well, what you're saying, Mike.
Sorry, what was that?
Well, what you're saying about, let's say, Cincinnati in particular. So you brought up Cincinnati.
Yeah, see, like people like Cincinnati and that Carolina team, you know, that 11-0, I think they are. If they was in the SEC, they'd probably have 5 losses.
Well, the problem is we don't know that. I understand what you're saying, and I tend to agree with you, but the problem is we don't know that. We don't know that they would have 5 losses.
Well, I know they'd probably have 3 losses at least.
No, my point is, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying that we don't know. We have nothing to go by. They don't play. Our biggest problem this year, in my opinion, is that we had the non-conference schedule wiped out. And that, for me, I don't know how long you've been watching me, but I analyze these non-conference games, the non-conference games that are played in September mostly, and then going to the bowl games, because that's the best way for us to start to connect the dots between the conferences and determine how good are these conferences is by them playing each other. And when none of them played each other this year, then we've got nothing to go by.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying on that. I understand that part of it. But I just look at the teams you like. Okay, it was a couple of days ago I was watching Joel Klatt and Colin Cowherd, I think it's his name.
Sure.
They goes on there once a week, they talk about college football. Well, I don't really like, I ain't gonna lie, I'm an SEC homer because, I feel like this is the best conference. We got the most talent across the whole country. So I just really
Sure.
I'll just really stay around here. Well, Colin, he's not really an SEC homer. I mean, he's a realist though. And he made up a big point that you can go through like Cincinnati. I know they didn't play in their conference, but you play where you play. I understand that. But that's what they was talking about, like Cincinnati and Carolina team. Like, when you play an SEC schedule, you're injured. You're going to get injured. You see what I'm saying? Players are being injured left and right from all teams because it's SEC caliber talent. NFL talent all across the board. But when you look at like Cincinnati, which I ain't saying that, I ain't going to say they're a bad conference because they're a good team. They've been good for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
But I look at it like, they ain't getting injured. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's getting hurt. And it's just like, it's a different animal. See what I'm saying? Like, a 2-0 Georgia team, I feel like, I ain't going to say they could beat them, even though I am a homer, but you can always win that one game. That one game. Like, a couple years ago, Texas beat us, and I felt like we should have beat them by 20. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Well,
I understand what you're saying, like, towards Cincinnati, like, you don't know because of because this year you don't know because no conference, like out of conference games or whatever. I understand that part of it. But I feel like if you want to get in the top 4, you need to schedule like next year. Whenever they make their schedule, they need to put somebody else on the conference. On their schedule that's gonna give them a challenge.
Well, I'll back up your.
Like that. Sorry,
I will back up your point this way. I think if anyone would go through, and I do this sort of thing on a fairly regular basis, if you would go through each year during bowl play and non-conference play and look at the best teams in the group of 5, like a Cincinnati has been for the last 2 or 3 years, Memphis has been for a number of years.
They've been pretty good for the last 3 or 4 years too.
UCF, of course, for a few years, and even now. Boise State for the last 15 or 20 years.
Yeah. Boise State even beat Georgia before when they were.
Yeah, they beat Georgia. They beat a Virginia Tech team that was really good. They won bowl games, of course.
In like the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
They played the first game of the year and they beat Georgia.
Yep.
I remember that game.
So the point I'm making.
I ain't saying they can't play with them. I'm not saying. I'm just saying it's the schedule wise. What I look at.
I hear you, but let me finish my point. Basically, that
Okay.
if you look at the bowl games that are scheduled, so I'll bring up Cincinnati for example. Last year Cincinnati was they lost to Memphis. Otherwise, Memphis was the top team in Group of Five, and Cincinnati lost to them in a close game. So they were the second or third best team in the Group of Five, and they went and they played Boston College in a bowl game and they killed them. But Boston College was only a 7-5 team in the ACC. The year before, Cincinnati was one of the top Group of Five teams again. They were a 10-2 team, and they went and they played Virginia Tech in a bowl game. And Virginia Tech was a 6-6 ACC team, and the game went down to like the last 2 minutes of the game. It was a very close game, and Cincinnati beat them. So basically, if you take the best teams in the Group of Five, they're usually like, I mean, the very best, like the top 3 to 4 to 5 teams that we're talking about. They are generally about the 15th or 20th best teams in the country. They're not Clemson, they're not Alabama, they're not Ohio State. They are, Memphis was the best team in the Group of Five last year. They played Penn State in a bowl game. It was a good game, but they lost 50-39. They lost by 2 scores in the last 5 minutes. It was a good game, but Penn State was better. And Penn State was what? The 10th best team in the country, something in that range. So that's about where they're at. Their best teams are the 15th, 20th, 25th best teams in the country. They're very top 3 or 4 or 5 teams.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
Why don't people talk about 8? Why don't they make it like 18 playoff names?
Well, they should have
To
done
give them
that.
a chance.
Well, if you watch me enough on here, I've been formatting 18 playoffs for years and years and years. I've got all sorts of systems to build an 18
Four just
playoff.
ain't enough.
No, it's not.
If you really look at it, because this year, especially for this year, you know what I'm saying? Like, you do have some good teams that ain't in the top 4. Like, I feel like right now, even though I am I'm a Georgia fan, even though I believe right now, Georgia can play with other teams like the top 4 because they have a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like if we were to play Florida again, I feel like we would beat them.
Well, if you were going to play Florida with JT Daniels plus all the defensive starters you missed in that game.
Yeah, we had 7 players out against Florida. They don't talk about that, though. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we do.
They don't talk about the players we had out. Like, it was still an okay game, but we had, like, Richard LeCounte, for example.
Sure.
Okay, he's not a known name to everybody in the country, but he's a very good safety. Okay, and them little running back, passing out the backfield, he'd have shut that down. That wouldn't have been happening if he was in the game. You know what I'm saying? That's the only reason they beat us because of that right there. But I just feel like if we played them again, we'd win. Like, I feel like if we played Alabama again, we'd have been a better game.
Well,
We had a third-string quarterback playing, man. We
sure.
had a third-string quarterback playing as I started.
It was a good game until about 7 or 8 minutes left.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we had a third-string quarterback playing, and he got over his head trying to make every play by himself. You know
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
That's what I feel like. I mean, maybe that's why they leaving Georgia in the top 10 because they feel like they know that if it was a little different, we had different circumstances. You know, but I know we ain't going to make it in because we number 8. If we were like number 7, maybe. If Florida got blown out and then Notre Dame won and then Ohio State lost, then that would be something if all that happened.
Well, it's not only about where you're ranked, it's about your opportunity, and you don't have an opportunity. You're not playing.
That's it, because Vanderbilt, you know, they left us hanging with. Vanderbilt ain't nobody anyway. I mean, we would beat them probably about 50, so that really ain't no. That ain't. I mean,
Yeah, that's not the opportunity I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that too, but I wish it was an 18 playoff. Then that way we would know if the group of 5 would be able to hang, you know. Because like I was saying, like you were saying, one game is different. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're playing an SEC or a Big 12 or Big 10 or a Pac-12 team, one game, I believe they can win. Like when UCF beat Auburn, you know what I'm saying? Did nobody think they were gonna beat Auburn? But they really outplayed them the whole game a couple years ago.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I do believe that that they can play, but I don't believe that like you got these smaller conferences crying about where they rank. Well, you got to be a realist too, though, and think about, okay, well, these other teams are better than them. Even though the smaller conference people don't want to hear it, but it's just the truth. I hate to be like that, but it's just the truth, like, of the matter. These teams are better than them, like, overall wise. That's what they're looking at. They're not looking at who they playing, even though they're in the small. They're not looking at all that. They're looking at, if they put them on the field around there, who's going to win? Well, that's what they do from 6 on out. Now the top 4, I feel like they keep them in there regardless. Like Ohio State, I know you all Ohio State fan. I understand that because I heard you talking about it. And I watch your show on YouTube. This is the only reason I got your number because I was watching your show on YouTube. And I understand you Ohio State fan, but I feel like 5 games, you know, I feel like that's not enough to even have a chance for somebody getting hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like a chance for stuff bad to happen to y'all. That's my point. Like, I understand y'all are one of the 4 best teams, but would you be one of the 4 best teams if a star player got hurt? Somebody that contributed to y'all winning. You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. Like I feel like Texas A&M should be number 4. Even though I don't really like Texas A&M that much, but I feel like they played. I mean, I ain't gonna say they're impressive because they barely beat Auburn, barely beat LSU. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I ain't trying to hold up your time. Well, thanks for talking to me.
Appreciate the call, man. Call back anytime.
Yeah. You have a great afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right. We're about 20 minutes away from the Pac-12 championship game. We've got UAB underway against Marshall in the Conference USA championship game. I was glad I was able to correctly tab UAB's record for Dominic on the call at 5-3. Yeah, so we got no score. And we've got UAB with the football. No, let's see. Marshall's got the football. No, I'm sorry. Looks like UAB's got the football. My bad. At their own 25. There we go. So that one is underway. Let me see what else is here in the live chat. Yes, Harrison. Absolutely. Taking your call, of course. Thank you for calling. It's my pleasure. It is my honor to be here talking to all of you, and I sincerely mean that. Thank you for your time. Pittsburgh sports all the time. Basically, what I'm trying to say is if Cincinnati loses, do you still put Coastal Carolina in the Cotton Bowl with something been canceled? Oh, with the conference championship game being canceled. I think you do. They would be the undefeated team coming out of the group of 5. They've played a lot of games. And that's one game, at least that's a team that they beat in the regular season in Louisiana. So it's a rematch. It's a team that they've already gained a quality win on. Thank you so much for everybody that gets into the live chat and encourages everyone to hit the like button. The like button is very important. Why? I don't know. I don't know the science behind it, but YouTube just tells us that they want likes. So if a video gets 1,000 views and it's got 10 likes, then for whatever reason, YouTube wants to see the engagement. They want to see that people like the video because obviously if people like it, then they're going to shove it to other people and get it into the traffic flow thinking that people like this video as opposed to a video that just gets views because it's got a nice title and a nice thumbnail and people click on it and don't like it. They don't like it, then they don't hit the like button. So YouTube gets the indication, okay, somebody got views off this video because of the thumbnail or the title or something drew the people, but the people didn't like it once they saw it. So YouTube wants to push videos that people actually like. So please, when you like what's going on here, also tell YouTube that as well. So Dependent Fanatic and others, Cheryl and others, thank you so much for encouraging everyone else to hit the like button. Likes all around, please. That's how we get more viewers. That's how we keep Mark I am broke, but if you're not, donate. Thank you, Dependent Fanatic. So understand this. I don't expect anyone to donate money, but understand that I do need to make money. This has to be a profitable venture because this is all I got. I told ESPN goodbye after 19 years. I've had enough. Bye. I'm doing this. I'm doing what I want to do. But to do that, I've got to earn money for food, shelter, clothing, and for other people as well, and for my retirement and all of that. So this has to be a successful venture. So as Dependent Fanatic says right there, we get more views, we make more money, and we rely on your individual contributions. And also, if you can get us some sponsors would be phenomenal. So Dependent Fanatic, thank you. Harrison, thank you so much. We appreciate that so much. Appreciate the super chat there. Keep it up. Mark, best college football coverage. That's our aim. I really need to get good at organizing my time now that I'm doing this full time. And before I was doing it full time, even though I had a full time job, I was still doing this full time as well. So I was putting in 50 hours there at ESPN. I was putting in 50 hours here. Now I'm just trying to manage my time better to build this up. So once we get to the off season, we're going to work on some operational things. I would love to build a nice set, but I don't know how to do that. I don't really know. I'm one of those people that if you take me online and show me nice kitchens and bathrooms and houses, I'll tell you what I like. But to be able to design it myself, forget it. So that's one thing. And we need to build up affiliate marketing, and we need to build up Facebook and Twitter and all those other potential ways of getting the word out. So I say this all the time, and I don't know who really takes it to heart, but believe me, you have a social media presence that I don't have. So when you share videos out on social media to Twitter and Facebook and other places, those are people that would never find us otherwise. So thank you so much for doing that. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Michael Hogue. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Michael. What's going on?
Not much. I just seen Rutgers just kicked the field goal, made it 3-0 after forcing Nebraska to fumble the football.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump on that game here pretty soon.
Hey, no, I just wanted to call and let you know things are getting a little better for me and stuff like that. And I haven't forgot. I'll get that. When things get better for me, I'll get that back.
Absolutely. You're fine, Michael.
But hey, I got a question. Why is it I got a feeling that Ohio State is going to win tomorrow, but not cover the spread?
Well, that sounds like it's pretty close to my selection.
And another thing too, who do you think would be the better fit for IU? We need maybe the Peach Bowl or the Face Bowl, Georgia or Florida?
Indiana, Georgia, Indiana, Florida. Well, I'm a sucker for any non-conference games between Power 5 conferences, especially schools that we never see play. So I would be happy with either one of those. Which is a better matchup for Indiana to win the game?
Mm-hmm.
If both teams are at full strength, I would like to see Indiana play that Florida defense.
Okay. That's right. Now, is there a chance that if Northwestern has a good performance tomorrow, they might steal the New Year's Six bid from IU, or is it possible that both teams could get a New Year's Six bid?
If what happens tomorrow? I'm sorry, Michael.
If Northwestern gives Ohio State a good game, is it possible that both IU and Northwestern get New Year's Day Six bowl?
I don't see that happening. There's just not enough slots.
Okay, so who do you think more likely would get the
Indiana.
New Year's Six? And where would Northwestern end up going?
They'll probably go to the Citrus Bowl, the next Big Ten slot.
And would that be an ACC matchup or SEC? I can't remember.
SEC.
Oh, could be a good matchup with Georgia more than likely, or are you thinking maybe something like an Auburn in the Citrus Bowl?
Well, that would probably be. let's see. Let's say Alabama's in the playoff, and Florida. Let's say Florida gets the next slot in the New Year's Six, and probably the SEC may get another New Year's Six slot. Maybe a Georgia gets another New Year's Six slot, and so that would, yeah, that brings us to Auburn.
Or maybe Texas A&M.
Oh, Texas A&M. I'm sorry, I forgot about Texas A&M. Yeah, maybe A&M's in the New Year's Six, and maybe that is a Georgia game in the Citrus.
Yeah, and I even posted in one chat minute ago. I don't know if you know it, but what would you think about Tim Brown firing Pontiac after 1 year?
I think that was probably the move to make. The Purdue defense has deteriorated quite a bit in the last 3 years.
Now you just got to try to figure out. I wonder who might be out there that could be a defensive coordinator for Purdue. And do you think Young, just about done with the firing of Lovie Smith, might throw his hat into the ring for Illinois?
With Lovie Smith gone, do I think what?
Just about done might throw his hat into the ring for the
Illinois?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Gus Malzahn thinks a little bit more of himself than that. I think that he believes that he's at a certain level that he would want a better job. I know that Illinois, somebody sent me something recently that showed that they have poured money into a new football facility. So they've taken the lead from Purdue, Northwestern, and Minnesota there. So I wasn't aware of that until a couple days ago. I guess anything's possible. Les Miles took a job at Kansas.
Yeah. Well, one other thing before I let you go, because I know you probably going to get other calls and shoot. I don't think it come up. Kevin Sumlin, do you think he could maybe, or do you think Jeff Rupp wouldn't want him as a defensive coordinator at Purdue? Would you not even bother with it?
Kevin Sumlin is the offensive coordinator at Purdue?
No, defensive coordinator. Or is he more of an offensive coordinator?
Yeah, Kevin Sumlin's made his name on offense.
Okay. I know he actually played defense when he was at Purdue.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
Yeah, not that. All right, sir. I'm sure I'll get in touch with you again this weekend. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it, Michael. Thanks for staying in touch.
Merry Christmas to all of you.
Merry Christmas to you as well, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, take care. Thanks. Bye.
It's our guy, Michael, Purdue fan. I love when we've got fans from fan bases that aren't the elite. Got McD from Maryland. We got Michael Hogue from Purdue. Who else do we have out there that roots for some of the lesser teams? We used to have a guy in here that was a big group of 5 UAB fan. So I appreciate those people in particular. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for being on the line. Let's go watch some football. Since we've only got 40 on the line, let's all go watch some football. I'm going to be back after the Pac-12 championship game, and we'll do it all over, and we'll talk college football playoffs and review the game and talk about Saturday's big matchups. See you at 11:30 approx. Looks like Swamp Life and Brad are getting into it about the ACC and the Big Ten.